Welcome to the Inside Track edition of the Digital DJ Tips DJ School podcast with me, Phil Morse, and our wonderful students who were here for the recording of today's episode and who supplied the questions. So we have three topics that have been hot in our community in the last month. The first one is DJing at sporting events. How do you do it? With the FIFA World Cup in full swing over in North America, there are a lot of DJs who are being asked to play either in public venues or just at parties. What are the do's? What are the don'ts? What are some tips? We're also going to cover whether DJs are now moving past just playing song after song, record after record, track after track. You'd be forgiven if you look at TikTok or Instagram for thinking just that, because all the transitions on there are very clever and something that sometimes you might think, how would a DJ even do that live? But maybe it's not quite so cut and dried, that modern DJing is not about that and old school DJing is about just playing track after track. We look in more detail. And finally, with the closure of Juno Download, one of the longest running DJ stores for digital music for DJs in the last month, we say, are download stores dying, and what does this mean for DJs who rely on them to get their music? If you enjoyed today's podcast, then please do give us a 5-star rating, or even better, a review on your podcast provider's channel, or of course on YouTube if you're watching the YouTube version. But for now, let's get started with this recording. Our first topic today is based upon an ongoing debate that happens in the community and flares up every now and then. It's certainly been something that people have been talking about in the digital DJ tips community this week. And the reason is that we've been talking to old school DJs. We've been talking this week to DJs who remember DJing back in the late 80s and 90s and 2000s, where DJing was playing one song after another, often done with style. And the music was invariably very well chosen by tastemakers, and the people going to listen to it were discerning. But apart from, as I say, a bit of style, a bit of flair, a bit of good mixing, and a few transitions that would have turned heads, the music was basically one track played after another. And we've been talking to those DJs here in our community because we've been doing some free training. We've released a free training set of videos over on YouTube, helping people return to the hobby. So part of that debate, and it kind of links to another debate that flares up quite regularly, which is, should you play the whole song or should you just play a little bit of a song? And so part of that debate related to the short mixing versus long mixing debate is this whole, are the days of playing one song after another gone? Sounds mad, doesn't it? Because songs are just songs, and surely that's what DJs do. They play songs, but it's not so mad. It really, really isn't. Because things like real-time stems, which is where your DJ equipment or software can take the vocals and the melodies and the bass lines and the drums and separate them in real time while you're DJing with those songs. Things like that, which means obviously you've got instant acapellas. You can take the drums from one song and mix it with the vocals from another, or the bass line from another, and so on. And the sync button, which obviously DJs talk about all the time, which means that you can have 3 or 4 such instances. So on all DJ software, you can have 4 decks, so 4 different sources, all running completely together with no need to do anything to keep that the case. With the sync button combined just with that one feature, stems, you could have vocals from one track, drums from another track, bass line from another track, and melody from another track. Modern digital DJ gear can move the key of tracks so that they're in sync with each other. Here at Digital DJ Tips, we invented a technique called fuzzy key mixing, which has taken the industry by storm over the last few years, to the point where a lot of the software and hardware has got a fuzzy key mixing button on it, which is a way of getting everything in key with everything else without it sounding too mad, too chipmunky, or too low, too Barry White, right? So these things taken together, key mixing, sync, stems, and then add in other things that have been there for a while, like loops, so you can have the bits of the track you like looping around forever. They take away the need to just play one song after another, because you could be continually live remixing. You could be continually mashing up. You can, if you're very creative, perform with other people's music in a completely new way, and in a way which is accessible to everyone who's got an idea. Because if you've got the idea, the software and the hardware nowadays will let you do it. So are the days of playing one song after another gone because of this? If you're on Instagram, or TikTok especially, if you're my daughter, who said to me, Dad, I want to learn to DJ because look at this, and this, and this, she's 13, then she doesn't want to play one song after another. She wants to just join up all the bits that are on the reels, the shorts, the video that she's watching, which have been done on software that can run on your phone, that can take all the things we just talked about and give you instant transitions that you can then use in social media content. It's a long way from a sweaty room with a low ceiling and a few pieces of vinyl and 50 people on the same vibe, but it's still DJing, right? So are the days of playing one song after another gone? Let's talk about it then. So firstly, I'm going to throw something out there, which is this. Straight song to song is literally still the whole job. In bars, weddings, mobile events, corporate events, open format. Might be mixing a little bit shorter than some of those other gigs I just mentioned. But look, it's still the massive thing in all those places. And so this idea that playing one song after another is dead and buried is patently untrue. However, it's still definitely a thing. So one thing I would argue, and this has come from being someone who was back there in the day when I started playing on 7-inches, where you couldn't even beat mix them. You just had to cut cleanly from one to another. And then of course beat mixing arrived maybe 4 or 5 years after I started DJing. And then we moved to CDJs and they got loop controls, so now you could loop parts of songs which we normally mixed. We used to make mixes easier, and then it moved on into digital and all the things I just talked about. So I've literally been there all the way through that. I would wager that a really clean 2-hour DJ set is harder to perform than a flashy mashup, because things like musical taste and selection and pacing the set, beginning, middle and end, tension and release, making sure everyone gets a chance to dance and everyone gets a chance to chat and everyone gets a chance to go and get a drink and all that stuff. None of that stuff I just described can be automated. None of that stuff I just described can be turned into the push of a button. Arguably, some of the things we talked about at the top of this segment, the ability to take bits from all the different tracks and turn them into something new, can be programmed, can be practiced parts of that big segment, but they are not the segment. Also, it's impossible to play for 2 hours like that, just trust me. I was with a really well-known industry figure who was a producer more than a DJ, but he was also a DJ. I've told this story before, but it completely illustrates this. We were in a really flash bar. It was the launch of a big manufacturer's new media players, and they got a really flash hotel bar on the roof of the hotel as the sun was going down, dusty Mediterranean kind of vibe. It's actually in Madrid. And they were DJing, right? People were using this new equipment and the industry were there. They'd flown us in, so it was obviously a big deal to them. And we were just kind of hanging around, milling around. And my friend, this producer guy, was on after another DJ. Now, this other DJ had spent 6 weeks locked away with these CD players, these new media players, and had performed a very technical set for about 20 minutes. Literally everything I described at the top of this piece. Not quite everything, because this was a while ago now, so there wasn't kind of key mixing and stuff, but a lot of these things were possible, and had performed a very intricate technical, is it mashups, is it live remixing, it had a bit of everything in it. Like I say, an extremely accomplished set. And my friend, the producer guy, went on after him. Now my friend, the producer guy's made some great tracks, he's got wonderful taste. By his second track, I was wandering over, what is this song? It's brilliant. It was Rainforests by Paul Hardcastle, by the way. That was the one that made me go over and say, oh my God, I remember this, but I don't know who it is, and it's brilliant, blah, blah, blah. So he started playing this amazingly tasteful set. But within 10 or 15 minutes, he'd kind of flustered and he was sweating, he'd gone red, and he couldn't carry on. And he had to get someone else to take over. And I was like gently saying to him afterwards, what went wrong, dude? Are you all right? And he said, I couldn't follow that guy who was doing all the flash stuff because I'm just playing records. And I was like, I felt really bad for him because I, for one, was totally enjoying him just playing records. Of course, it was designed to show off gear, right? This event. So I can understand where he was coming from. But I still think a clean 2-hour set is harder than a flashy mashup. So flashy mashups have a place within it, but they are not the art of DJing. The clippable bits are the ones that make everyone think this is what's happening out there, because of course there's no room for a full 2-hour DJ set that builds a crowd nicely on Instagram Shorts or on Reels or on TikTok or over on YouTube or whatever. So I kind of get why people start to think that. Yeah, it's an interesting debate, isn't it? I suppose another way of thinking about this is the kind of that's not real DJing, right? And that can work both ways. So old school DJs can look at people doing what I just described and say, that's not real DJing. Building a crowd for 2 hours is real DJing. But equally, the kids who are doing the new stuff will look at granddads like me and say, you just play records. That's not real DJing. So this line has always been thrown around in DJing. CDJ DJs got it thrown at them by vinyl DJs. Controller DJs got it thrown at them by CDJ DJs. DJs who don't use the sync button threw it at DJs who do use the sync button. This has always been going on. So when someone says you're not doing it properly because you're not doing all the technical stuff, or vice versa, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. So I think personally, this is my personal view, and we are live as we record this podcast. I know there's views coming in live, which I'll get to now from our wonderful students. I think the skill is taste. The skill is musical taste and being able to interact with and move and communicate through music with a crowd. The tricks can be part of that, and they can certainly make that a brilliant thing. You know, a good DJ who gets what I just described but can also do the tricks. Hats off. Brilliant. But the tricks are not the skill. The tricks are not DJing, right? There's something you can use. As our tutor, DJ Jazzy Jeff, who knows a thing or two about this, often says, it's the spice on the meal. And so if one of the best scratch DJs, one of the best performance DJs, one of the best trick DJs in the world can say that, then we've got to listen to him. And actually, DJ Jazzy Jeff is a good place to end this segment, because go and watch DJ Jazzy Jeff perform. He leaves his videos live. He plays live every week and leaves the videos up for a week or so before he puts them in his private platform. Go and watch the way Jeff performs. See, Jeff has found a way of combining both of these worlds. Jeff rarely plays more than 45 seconds or 90 seconds of a song. Rarely. But it doesn't sound that way. Jeff sounds like the most laid back, smooth, you're not meant to watch him, you're just meant to let him get on with it and let the music wash over you style of DJing. And yet he's changing the song every 45 seconds, every 90 seconds. It is like watching Ronaldo or Messi at work. And we're going to get onto football later on. As we record this, the World Cup is in full swing over there in North America. But it's like watching an absolute maestro at their game. So Jeff is probably a good place to leave this. Yes, it is possible to not really play one song after another and just spend your whole time blending them and, you know, jumping from song to song very, very fast. But you've got to be of the caliber of Jazzy Jeff to do it. If not, let the music breathe. Go back to being a tastemaker and connecting with the dance floor would be my view on that. But we're going to go to the community now and see what you think about this. Well, actually, I would go to the community and do that if there wasn't a glitch on our live feed. As we record these podcasts, this kind of thing sometimes happens. So if the glitch unglitches and I get some live comments coming in there, I will feed them in. But hey, such is the fun of live shows. Do let me know, live audience, and I will try and read them out when they arrive on my desktop here in the studio. And producers, try and help me out, please. Try and get some stuff. Oh, there's one or two popping through now. Lisa Domingo, thank you, Lisa, says, yes, I love this, Phil. Good DJs really are tastemakers. So yeah, good. Well, I'm sure that a lot of people will agree with this, because I think any of us who've been around DJing for a while have seen so many styles come and go in DJing that at the end of the day, it's about the music and the crowd and the connection, isn't it? Let's move on to our second topic today. This one was predicated by a sad event this week, or rather this month, which was the closure of an absolute veteran and much loved music download store. Now, the music download store is one here in the UK called Juno Download. And Juno Download is the download, it's like the digital download side of Juno. And Juno was always a record store, it was a vinyl store. They sold vinyl by mail order back in the day. And then they moved into selling DJ gear and slip mats and other paraphernalia that DJs need. And that part of their business is still going, because a few years ago, 10 years ago maybe, they sold the download bit, they sold the digital file bit, the bit that was competing with Beatport and Traxsource and all those kind of people, to another company. So it's Juno Download that's closed. It closed on the 1st of June. And that was it. No warning. 20 years gone. So obviously upset people, upset the audience, probably upset them quite a lot. But it got the Digital DJ Tips community talking about whether music download stores are dying, which should be quite a big problem for DJs, because of course, almost uniquely, you know, you've got hi-fi enthusiasts downloading completely high resolution lossless albums and so on from the places that are designed to service them. And then you've got the download stores that mainly are populated by DJs nowadays, and people who for whatever reason need a physical, I say physical, but they need to own a copy, a digital copy of music. And Juno Download was there among a mix of a few of them. There's another veteran in the UK called Traxsource, Trax with an X. And then of course you've got the big boys like Beatport and also Bandcamp, which is a little bit different. Bandcamp is a kind of direct to consumer from the artist place, but they, as well as selling physical vinyl and CDs, they also sell downloads. Lovely place to hang out, by the way, if you've not bought music or indeed physical music media from Bandcamp, go take a look. So yeah, there's a few places left. Also the very big names like iTunes is still there, for iTunes of course from the iPod days, and also Amazon still sell MP3s for downloading. Right, so there's a few stores left, but the pressure is undeniably real. Streaming utterly dominates. We all have a streaming service. I mean, put your hand up if you haven't, but I bet every single person on our live stream recording today has got a music download store that they use. Apple Music in my household, because everyone else apart from me has got an Apple phone, so they get it as part of their Apple subscription, and so do I. And so yeah, you might probably got Spotify, right? But you might be a DJ that uses Beatport. Certainly physically here in the Digital DJ Tips studio, all our gear is connected to our Digital DJ Tips Beatport account, etc, etc. So download stores are definitely a thing, but the download thing is being squeezed by the streaming services. However, while it's undoubtedly hard to run one of these things, and I imagine that Juno Download, because it was getting quite clunky, you just got the feeling that, you know, maintaining it was expensive, and that as one of the smaller players, they were getting squeezed from all sides. But Beatport downloads appears to be growing. So I did some digging for some stats before we went live with the recording of this podcast and show. And apparently Beatport has grown about 44% in the last 5 years. So this does sniff of consolidation, really, doesn't it? It sniffs of the big players kind of taking the market and the small players getting squeezed out, rather than the death of downloads. So that's something to look at, something to keep an eye on. We might end up with a couple of big names, such as, you know, iTunes Store and Amazon downloads, and then some niche independents like Beatport, like Bandcamp, and then not much else. I think the real sad thing here was the catalogue. So Juno Download had a great catalogue. It had some music going back on digital download to the 90s, and there was nowhere else to get a lot of this stuff. And so this is the thing that's, I think, quite sad. All those deep cuts kind of now only survive on the hard drives of the DJs that bought them. And lots of DJs got in touch with us and said that they had huge wish lists and even carts in Juno Download of stuff that goes back 20 or 30 years that they wanted to buy. We have a big old school DJ audience at Digital DJ Tips, just gone, which I think is quite sad. You know, it's like the music, it's like the Wayback Machine, right? You've seen the Wayback Machine on the internet where you can go and look at what websites look like 15 years ago, whatever. I just think, unless this has been done for music, and I suspect it hasn't been done for a lot of the tracks that were on the servers of Juno, it's kind of lost forever. So yeah, or certainly harder to find going forward. I do hope someone maybe buys up that catalogue. Maybe that will happen. So for DJs, I think the lesson here is that do buy the music you love. It's the way we teach it, is buy the music you love. Because if you own a file, it can't be turned off. So ownership of files does become really important. And this was kind of a case in point, which divides the rest of the world from us. Because casual users, rationally, it's fine to stream. And that includes us, right? It's fine to stream. Streaming is great, especially if it does plug into your DJ gear, because you can mess around with genres and styles and new music and all that stuff that you don't particularly want to buy. You can actually DJ with it. But when you are either a collector, so you collect esoteric underground music and you want great quality copies of it, so these are the hi-fi people. That also overlaps with, of course, a lot of us collect music as well as DJ with it. We probably have bigger collections than we have DJ collections, right? Because there's a lot of music we like that you'd never DJ with. But certainly DJs should be, as we always say, stream the music you like, buy the music you love, because you never know what's around the corner. What's going to happen to it. So yeah, it's a sobering thing. We will miss Juno Download, I think, but I do think it's the way that it's going. Just back to some of the comments that were coming in earlier about this whole idea of are the days of playing one song after another gone? Rob says people above a certain age weren't even used to listening to DJs mixing when they went out. That's true. Pat says a certain age. I remember when I was first going out, so those of you that are around my age, especially if you're from the UK, will remember Rope for Luck by the Happy Mondays, which was one of the very first kind of indie dance tunes that came out of Manchester, where I'm from. And it was filmed in, now I never forget, I think it was either 5th Avenue or 42nd Street, which was a club on Princess Street in Manchester. It had this massive, round, kind of cantilevered lighting rig that could come down and when the night kind of got going and when everyone was in, this lighting rig kind of came down over to just to about head height and turned on. That was their thing. But the Happy Mondays filmed the video for Rope for Luck, which is a great song, by the way, in that club. So you can go and see that official music video on YouTube to see the club I'm talking about here. But when I was like just about old enough to go out, I would say I was probably 17, maybe even a little bit younger. We used to go into Manchester on the bus on the 192 from Hazel Grove, and we used to go to that club, and it was like £1 to get in and £1 for a drink. And the DJ there used to play vinyl, and there was no way of mixing because there were no pitch controls, but he was an absolute superstar. Dave Booth, he was called. He was a superstar at jumping from track to track while not dropping a beat, so you could continue dancing. And he just was the best in the world at it. I've never heard anyone better. So although DJs of a certain age don't have mixing in their kind of past, if you like, when they were going out, it wasn't really a thing. Certainly at the beginning of that time. It doesn't mean the DJs weren't trying hard and doing a good job, I would say. But you were using the tools you had, weren't you? So yeah, I know what you're saying there. I know what you're saying there, Rob. But then, of course, for me, DJing took off when mixing took off. For me, when I bought my first decks and I started to figure out how the hell you beat match, that was kind of that's when everything clicked, and when I decided this was going to be me for life, for sure. Back to the point about download stores and about owning your own music. Noel says back in the day, so we're talking the late 70s and early 80s, you could get into record pools, and record pools meant that our job was to break new music. Yes, they're still there. So you can still join subscription services where you get all the new music for one payment. DJ City, BPM Supreme, Zip DJ, Promo Only, these kind of places. But they're not, the importance has gone now. It's just not what it used to be. Back in the day, they used to send the DJs that had the jobs in the big clubs in towns and cities the records, and they pressed up only a small number. The DJs would receive a piece of vinyl, often on white label, with a piece of paper, an A4 piece of paper, where they had to fill in what happened when they played the song. Did people dance? Did people ask about it? Did people like it? Will they play it again? And they had to fax that piece of paper back. I know because I did it. It was a big part of my job. I used to get dozens of records sent to me every week. And I had to not only fax these pieces of paper back, but send back a chart of my current top 20. And so this was a thing. You're quite right, Noel. So it wasn't just the late 70s and early 80s. This was still going strong in the early 90s for sure. And our job was indeed to break new music. So it was put in our hands for that reason. Lisa says, I love Bandcamp, especially on First Fridays. Yes, that's the artist day, isn't it? And I get a lot of people, says Rob, again back to the first topic that we covered today, at private parties that do not want songs to be switched over every minute or to be played only half. Yes, of course, and it does depend on the audience. As we've been saying, people have been saying, it does depend on the songs, that's for certain. And Chris says, hello from me and my son Liam. We are both in a music pool. Yes, Chris is one of our oldest, one of our most, what's the word I'm looking for? Not oldest students, but been with us the longest time. And we've watched Chris's son Liam go from, well, child to young adult as a DJ. So it's always good to see you. Express Rehab says, my connection is fading out to you guys. It's probably the heat. It is hot, isn't it? But it's still going strong from our end. And Tyler says, I like having all my favourite music as the music to DJ with because it's my niche. I'll extract stems to make my own bootlegs and mashups so I can have more unique transitions. Yes, so you're literally making your own versions of songs. Oh, thank you, Chris. Yes, it wasn't 42nd Street and it wasn't Fifth Avenue. It was Legends. You're a legend, Chris. Thank you for remembering. Yes, I do tend to rewrite the past in my head, but I'll put it down to a faulty hard drive up here in the old bonds. Thank you very much, everyone, for those comments on those first two topics. Mark says, Phil, a fax. Lol, my kids would have no idea what magic enabled you to send paper down the phone. We used to have a franking machine. Do you remember franking mail? We used to have a franking machine that we rented. You couldn't buy them. You had to lease them on long-term leases because we sent out by post our flyers and our newsletter for our nightclub to 500 people. And rather than lick and stick stamps, we had a franking machine. It was franking machines and faxes, making me feel very old here. Our third topic today is highly relevant because even you stateside people for whom soccer is a secondary sport, shall we say, and I'm trying to say this while not treading on sensitivities, you will know, because it's in your country as well as Canada and south of the border as well, that the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, is currently going on as we record this. All the footballing nations are in those countries, Mexico, the US and Canada, playing each other, and it's on for a little bit longer. It's been brilliant. It's really colourful. It's really great. I'm not a fan of the quarter time breaks, which are meant to be hydration breaks halfway through the halves, but I strongly suspect they are so that American networks can show adverts. Not a fan of that, but I am a fan of it. You've got some wonderful stadiums and you've got some great crowds there. The Football World Cup is on. But that means that as far as our audience goes, we've had several students saying, I've been asked to DJ a sports event, and it's normally a showing, a viewing of World Cup games, right? We're having a barbecue, we're having a pool party, we're having an evening where we want to get all our mates together to watch our team. There's a lot of expats and there's a lot of immigrants who've got teams, and they can get together and they can have a party in cities all over the world, never mind the US, and support their teams, get together, communities can get together and so on in ways that don't happen apart from every 4 years when this happens. And so lots of our students, well, several, enough for me to know there's many more out there who are doing the same thing, have said, how do I do it? I've been asked to DJ, or I'd quite like to DJ at sporting events. How do I approach it? I've done this so many times. I've done this in beach bars. So there's a beach bar I used to DJ in down the coast here. We're in Gibraltar, which is right on the very, very southern tip of Spain. It's a little British overseas territory on the southern tip of Spain. Look it up if you don't know anything about it. Very strange history to this place. But ultimately it means that just 5 minutes walk behind me, where my thumb is pointing for those of you watching the video version, is the border to Spain. And then you've got the Mediterranean coast all the way along Marbella, Barcelona, Valencia, Ibiza. So look, this is beach bar territory. And I used to DJ a wonderful beach bar just along there. And it was a Dutch bar. So when they had football on, they really went for it, especially when the Orange team was playing, the Dutch team. And I used to DJ there on the football days, and they used to have the big screens on the beach and stuff. So I know a bit about this, but also even before that, I used to DJ when my job was DJing back in Manchester in the 90s. We used to have the decks set up behind the sofa. So we had a huge living room in our house. We rented a house because its living room was like a church hall. It was massive. We had this huge living room, we had a huge sofa and a big TV, well, big for the day, it was probably about 24 inch. And then behind the TV, we had the decks set up, and I'd DJ before, not in the hydration breaks, they didn't exist then, hopefully they'll never exist again, before and at the half time and after the game, right? And so we'd turn our watching our teams into kind of a bit of a rave. And so I've done this all my life. So here's the thing, here are the tips I've been offering in our private conversations to our DJs who play sporting events. These are the tips I've been offering. I've kind of gathered them all together here to share with the podcast and the wider audience. The first tip is that the match is the main event, not you. So get the ego out of the way. No one, doesn't matter what you tell yourself, is going to want to listen to your music while the match is on. They're going to want that commentary nice and loud, right? So, and they're going to want it nice and loud before the match starts. You ain't playing up to the first whistle. You're playing up at the very latest to when the teams walk out onto the pitch. But you might be playing up just until the commentators start building the crowd up, right? Especially if there's a pre-match show going on. You're going to need to turn the music off and get that. Now, what I used to do was feed the TV through the DJ mixer and through the speakers. So we had the same sound system playing the audio from the match at the same time as the music, right? So I could fade it out and stuff nicely and keep it nice and loud. But you need to get out of the way. I was warming up a bar recently. Actually, the reason I was doing it was I wanted to test. Some of you will know, if you're long-term listeners or students of our school, that I've got some really old-fashioned like plastic portable turntables that run off batteries and a really, really basic mixer that I take 7-inch singles and just DJ with. And I had a mad idea to play a retro festival, a big festival of thousands and thousands of people on a main stage with this little setup. And I was practicing at the bar that's owned by the guy who promoted the event that I was going to be playing this setup with. And I was just warming up in this bar, and there was some football on. There was just a localish game on the TV. And, you know, I was just playing away, and someone came up to me and said, "Can you turn that off? None of us have come for that. We've come for that." And I was like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. Well, there weren't many people there. Just turned it off. Of course I did, and let them get on with it. It was only me checking the gear works." But that, you know, there was a reminder quite recently that you are not the main event. So get your ego out of the way. You're definitely thinking bar gig, not club gig. But even further into the background, I would say, you know, the whole thing is about just providing background music. And so bar gigs are a very different thing. And we have training for our students that separate. The way we train how to play gigs is we separate into lounge and bar, club, and mobile and event DJing. They're three very, very different types of public DJing. Mobile and event DJing, there's a method when you're playing to multi-generations, weddings and birthdays and corporate events. There's a method to that, just like there's a method to bar DJing. Bar DJing rotate, which is what we're going to talk about now. And the method for club DJing, beginning, middle and end and all that stuff is very different again. When it comes to playing for sports events, it doesn't matter if it's just your mates around at your house, in your garden or whatever, or it's actually in a bar, you're playing really a rotation every 20 minutes of what everyone likes. You're just playing a bit of this and a bit of that and then get back to a bit of this and back to a bit of that. So you're keeping everyone happy without really having to get people dancing and just playing great music. I mean, it's quite freeing, really. You can play all those songs that you wouldn't play if your only job was to get people dancing. But also, because it's a sports event, there are going to be songs people want to hear. I mean, if you listen to the bars, I live in a marina, like a sports... what would you call it? Yeah, a marina. It's like there's boats and there's bars and there's restaurants and I guess you'd call it a coastal leisure area, right? That's where I live. And we're in a big tower block, right? We're in a big block at the top of this tower block. And even at the very top where we are, when you look down at the pools and the marinas and the jetties and the piers and the super yachts and everything that's going on down there, when you look down, you've got bar, restaurant, bar, pub, nightclub. The noise that comes up from there is massive. But before a sporting event, they've got a huge screen and everyone gathers outside. And the music, because obviously at the moment the World Cup's on and I've been watching the England games, the music coming up from there is it's all the sporting anthems. It's the England songs that people have always released and that have got into the charts over the years. They always end with Sweet Caroline, which has just become a kind of, we've adopted that as one of our songs. So there will be songs that you just play. You know what they are. And I can't tell you what they are where you are, but there might be a bit of Eye of the Tiger in there. You know what I mean? If it's the boxing, I guess. You know what I mean, right? So look, you're going to be playing music that fit the event. It's not about your ego. It's not about educating people. These are big songs that people know. I think it's worth fixing a couple of crates in advance. The We Won and the We Lost crate. You don't want to be playing We Are the Champions straight after a drab, 1-0 defeat in the rain. So you need to think about that. And in British bars and stuff, generally the DJ will play at half time as well. Although sometimes not, because depending upon whether the TV network goes away for 15 minutes of adverts or whether it's one of the networks, we have the BBC that doesn't have adverts, and they actually have, the sports stars of yesterday in the studio talking about the game. So it might be that you don't play music at that point. But you're definitely playing broad commercial music, keeping your ego out of the way, definitely having the music that suits the sport you're playing, and you'll know what those songs are. And yeah, that's it really. The real job is before and after the game. And don't worry if the place empties after, especially if you lose the game. It's nothing to do with you ultimately. You're just there to vibe the crowd up and to add to the occasion. You are not the occasion really. So I think that's pretty much it. A few of you have commented on this. A few of you have definitely played some of these gigs. Hydration breaks are definitely for the adverts. A couple of you are saying that. Noel says, yes, halftime DJ sets are the best. Lisa says, what if the commentary is in Spanish? They're the best. I don't even speak Spanish. I know Spanish commentary is absolutely fantastic. Goal, go, 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 go. Exactly the same here. I'm sure it's the same on the Spanish channels stateside, right? I love it. Far more fun. Oh, thank you. Lisa remembers my live sets from the balcony of the place where we live that I was chatting about. So you know what it looks like, Lisa, over that balcony down in the marina. That's awesome. Noel calls them the jock jams. The jock jams are those songs I was talking about, right? Yeah, so maybe Eye of the Tiger after Rumble in the Jungle, says Ralph. Jerry and the Pacemakers, says Phil. Ferry across the Mersey, yes. There's a big song. So thank you very much for feeding in, not only with your... I'm actually starting to get that goosebumpy buzz you get when you talk about literally music and you start to feel the melodies coursing through your veins. So thank you for that, people. That is the end of our scheduled commentary for today. Wow, you know what? I'll be honest with you, because I like to be honest with you. I had about 5 minutes to prepare for today because I was so rushed getting the videos out that we had to get out in the new series and the series we've been making all week. I literally had 5 minutes to prepare, just to scribble down. There's 2 or 3 things for each of those topics. But you helped me through. We really got going, and I think we talked about a lot of things there that were triggered by your feelings. Pat said, yes, TV sound through the mixer all night, warm up before the match, halftime fun tunes, Vindaloo, etc. Apologies if you're not from Britain, you won't get that reference and you're not missing much. And then full-time play out and then party time. Yes, I'm with you totally there, Pat. So thank you for that. Awesome. I'm just scrolling up through the comments. I think I pretty much covered everything. I think I was pretty good getting to all your comments as we went through today, which is good. Sometimes I struggle with that. So maybe the general vibe of the day of getting everything done quickly and keeping on top of it means that I've done a better job than normal. And yeah, I think I've pretty much covered everything you said there, everyone, ahead of time. So thank you very much for being part of it. I'm going to get out of here, pass this recording over to the team, get them to edit it. You'll see it on the podcast platform. It's actually not going to go live in the podcast platform till next Thursday. Probably not live on YouTube till next Thursday as well. We're kind of putting them a week later because as usual, we close the studio for 6 weeks over summer. So we're trying to make sure that there's some stuff for you over the summer. We've got a couple of special podcast recordings. Actually, me and Steve did them together, reminiscing about the old days of Digital DJ Tips and the old days from before Digital DJ Tips. So you can look forward to those over the summer. But meanwhile, for me, Phil, in the studio, thank you for being here. Give us those thumbs up and loves on Facebook, won't you? So we know we've done a good job. And thank you to Chris, Benedict, Jack, Java Man Sanchez, Noel, Lisa, Kesh, and everyone else who is giving me those thumbs up here. You did a great job, says Lisa, because you're a pro. I think it's more that I've just been doing it for a very long time, Lisa, if I'm going to be brutally honest about it. The rarest time to be on here. See you all very soon. Oh, thank you very much. And Lisa's going to be in Ibiza at the end of July, beginning of August. Yeah, guess where I'm going to be? In rainy England. Well, that's because I'm down here 11 months of the year. Take the family to see the family is the idea for me this summer holidays. Right, anyway, enough babbling. Thank you for being here. Till next time, get good, get out there, make the moments. Go check out that free series if you're an old school DJ. You'll like it whether you're returning to the hobby or not. We've spent a lot of time on it. It's on YouTube now, and 5 of the 7 videos are already live. But meanwhile, bye for now. And that's where we're going to leave it for today. It was a great set of questions, and it was great to have so many of our students helping out there with their views and thoughts. So thank you to everyone who took part. If you would like to get involved in this podcast, we also have a Your Questions edition, which is a completely open, you ask the questions and we find the answers for you. If you'd like to get involved, then all Digital DJ Tips students get the chance to ask questions every month. Our flagship product that's helped thousands of DJs to get into this hobby is called All Access, and you can learn about All Access over at digitaldjtips.com. Join up, ask questions, get involved. But meanwhile, for me, Phil, whether you're a student or not, thank you for coming, and I will see you in the next edition of the Digital DJ Tips podcast very soon. Until then, get good, get out there and make the moments. Bye for now.